Hello, my people. You're welcome back to my channel. Tunde Bakare don't finally break silence. The guy don't speak up. He called on President Tinubu. He said a whole lot of things. He said, in fact, that Nigerians must declare state of emergency amid this political banditry under Tinubu's government. Now, Tunde Bakare, now they talk this one. He said a whole lot of things. He said that Nigeria is descending into tyranny under the watch of President Tinubu. Now, concerning this his reaction, some Nigerians don't come out to commend am, while some still criticize am. Some really commend am. They say because among all these top big short pastors, say na him be the only person wey don come out to tell the truth to power, tell Tinubu the way things are. Obi Ezekwesili don still come out come commend am, say he really like this bold step taken by Tunde Bakare, and also call out to other men of God to speak out. So guys, I'm going to drop the reactions. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Subscription now for free. Now make it for the get ogbonge news as we dey drop and sharply. So please drop your comments, your take on this in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.
Hello, everyone. Pastor Tunde Bakare did his usual end of the year address. No, it's not. No, State of the Union address. I think that's what he refers to it. And quite, interesting conversation he had there. And there were so many things he had to say about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm going to stop here to quickly say that it's one thing where, as Nigerians, we know what is wrong. As Nigerians, we talk about this. But when election comes, somehow we don't get it. I don't understand. When Nigerians are praying for God to help us intervene, I always tell people, I say, look, you see that every four years an election comes, that's God's miracle to us, that you've lived to be live there. There are people who did not live to see the 2023 election. And there are many more people that will not live to see the 2027 election. I don't know whether I'm one of them. You don't know whether you're one of them. Yeah, we say, God forbid, we would love to be one of them, but we don't own this thing. So for every time that an election comes and you are alive, at that moment to make a decision, that's your miracle. That's God saying to you, take this. Use it for the betterment of your country. But you see, when that time comes, you now begin to see Nigerians who are talking about things like, but I am, but whatever. Okay. And then we are where we are. And I think this thing that we do where we're always calling on God, I'm looking for the term to actually say this is what it is. It's abdication of responsibility. So we want God to fix Nigeria, to do everything for us. But we don't do what God says we should do. Do not steal, do not kill, do not maim, do the right thing, love your neighbor as thyself. We don't do any of those things. But we suddenly, because we pray, we want this thing to do. Why don't we do all of these things that God has said we should do? If we don't steal, you don't collect bribe, you don't do those things, Nigeria will begin to be fixed. If when they give you work, you put in your own and you do your everything, Nigeria will begin to get fixed. So these are places where we have continuously, not done the right thing. Bakare urged the Nigerian government to reflect on the leadership example set by Pharaoh as portrayed in the biblical story of Joseph in Genesis 41. According to Bakare, the Pharaoh demonstrated wisdom and humility when faced with impending crisis, which led to Egypt's recovery and prosperity. He called on President Tinubu, definitely not my president, to emulate this approach by embracing humility, seeking wise counsel, and making decisions that will ensure Nigeria's recovery. So that's the thing. Tinubu is not interested. Mr. Tinubu is not interested in Nigeria's recovery. Mr. Tinubu does not care whether Nigeria goes down or not. What Mr. Tinubu cares about is him being in office, being able to have access to the nation's wealth, nation's resources, and do whatever he wants to do with the country until we get to that point and accept that point for what it is. And that's the way we will then be able to handle Mr. Tinubu the way he should be handled. But this whole, learn counsel, come and recover from what? Recover, do what? Okay. The pastor's address also decried the leadership failure since January 2025. Bakare accused those in power of exacerbating the country's political and social crisis through authoritarian tendencies and erosion of democratic institutions. Then Nigerians, the past few months since that admonition in January, have shown that those responsible for sharing the cost of our nation lack humility and the character this moment demands. Instead, what we have seen since the beginning of the year is a descent into tyranny and a brazen abuse of power. Those entrusted with power appear determined to destabilize what is left of our political institution and have committed themselves to obliterating the guardrails of constitutional governance. The thing is that nobody entrusted these people with power. They grabbed the power. They bought, some of them grabbed it, some of them stole it, some of them bought it. You understand? When someone, a politician that gives money and they vote, when he has bought it, nobody has moral justification to demand anything from him. He or she does not owe anybody. So these are the things we didn't entrust. So let's not stop making it look as if, oh, these are the things we gave this. No, we didn't entrust them with power. They grabbed it. It is now for us to begin to say we want to begin to entrust the people we want to see in power, get the things in power. We need to go to that level. We need to, let's put the gloves off. We're fighting for our lives here. People are being killed. How many more are going to be killed before 2027 election? We don't do the right thing again. How many more are going to kill before the 2027 election? If you don't do the right thing, how many more are going to be killed before the 2031 election? Our lives are in danger because of the political decisions that we make. We need to understand that politics is everything. And if we don't fix Nigerian politics, this mess, we're going to go forward and say, oh, this used to be a better time. God forbid.
At the center of this political banditry is the motor park brand of politics, nurtured by the old brigade politicians, and in recent times by President Bola Ahmed TINUBU. Mr. President, it is through your influence that the Nigerian National Assembly has become a haven for legislative rascality. Mr. President, it's under your watch that the National Assembly has become an extension of the executive, grossly violating the principles of separation of powers and rubber stamping the whims and caprices of your office, all while singing the international anthem of psychoviolence on your mandate, we shall stand. Mr. President, thanks to your political machinations, Nigeria is now bedeviled by a captured National Assembly, the most ineffective in its checks and balances role since the start of the Fourth Republic. In 2006, the Fourth National Assembly had the audacity to reject the tenure exemption bid of a sitting president. In 2010, the Sixth National Assembly summoned the courage to stand against a power hijacking cabal and restore Nigeria to the path of constitutionality by invoking the doctrine of necessity. In 2011, the House of Representatives of the Seventh National Assembly had the courage to elect its leaders, as did the Senate of the Eighth National Assembly in 2015, defying executive interference. This National Assembly, the 10th, has by its unconstitutional endorsement of the president's abuse of powers proven to be the most spineless in our recent history. Through its actions and inactions, the National Assembly has in effect become the 48th member of the president's cabinet. While a cabinet minister by the name of Wike, is it Wike or Wike or Wakeep? While a cabinet minister has more or less become a third-time state governor in Rivers State, pampered by the indulgences of the president. Recent events have made it clear to Nigerians that had this assembly been in place in 2006, when the third-term agenda was proposed, our democracy would have since morphed into one of Africa's lamentable tales of sit-tight dictatorship. To the President of the Nigerian Senate, who has not heeded the call to subject himself to an unbiased investigation, to clear his name of the allegations leveled against him, and under whose leadership the National Assembly has become a carry-go legislature, hiding under the umbrella of technicalities and a dubious voice voting system, I leave you and your conscience with the words of Frederick Bessières, former deputy of the French National Assembly. He said, and I quote, "When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it." To the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under whose brand of politics the institution of legislative oversight is collapsing and our democracy is faced with an existential threat, I say, Mr. President, Nigeria is too delicate for this kind of politics. If this state capture was what you meant by a Milokan, it is an anticlimax that can only be counterproductive at the end. I urge you, Mr. President, to think deeply and reflect on these words. No man is wise enough, nor good enough to be trusted with unlimited power. Mr. President, please stop playing God.
While a cabinet minister by the name of White, is it White or Wike or Wakey? While a cabinet minister has more or less become a third-time state governor in Rivers State, pampered by the indulgences of the president. Recent events have made it clear to Nigerians that had this assembly been in place in 2006, when the third-term agenda was proposed, our democracy would have since morphed into one of Africa's lamentable tales of sit-tight dictatorship. To the President of the Nigerian Senate, who has not heeded the call to subject himself to an unbiased investigation, to clear his name of the allegations leveled against him, and under whose leadership the National Assembly has become a carry-go legislature, hiding under the umbrella of technicalities and a dubious voice voting system, I leave you and your conscience with the words of Frederick Bessières, former deputy of the French National Assembly. He said, and I quote, "When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it." To the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under whose brand of politics the institution of legislative oversight is collapsing and our democracy is faced with an existential threat, I say, Mr. President, Nigeria is too delicate for this kind of politics. If this state capture was what you meant by a Milokan, it is an anticlimax that can only be counterproductive at the end. I urge you, Mr. President, to think deeply and reflect on these words. No man is wise enough, nor good enough to be trusted with unlimited power. Mr. President, please stop playing God. Four years ago, on Sunday, April 4, 2021, in a speech titled "The Conspicuous Handwriting on the Wall," I warned the President Muhammadu Buhari-led government about the dangers of the second-term curse. The second-term curse is a pattern of presidents being less successful in their second term. Citing the Wall Street Journal, I pointed out that political analysts have identified hubris as the cause of this pattern. This was one of the moments I took a strong public stance against the policy positions and governance outcomes in the previous administration, despite my access to the president. I did it because I did not want that government to fail. Much as I disagree with the politics of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I'm speaking up today because, again, I do not want the president to fail. It is not in the interest of any Nigerian, let alone the Nigerians whose survival hangs in the balance for President Tinubu. Like it or not, this administration holds the reins of our economy, and we cannot allow them to flush it down the drain. From his approach to governance, right from his first day in office, the current administration, though in its first term, seems to have drifted in the sea of hubris. In the process, steering the polity adrift and struggling to stabilize it. Since justice, equity, and good governance are the foundations for national prosperity, and because injustice can frustrate any economic agenda, it is time for this government to embrace humility and govern with justice and fairness before it is too late. God forbid we should say, as we did to the House of Commons in 1935, when the situation was manageable, it was neglected. And now that it's thoroughly out of hand, too late, the remedies which then might have effected a cure. There's nothing new in this story. Want of foresight, unwillingness to act when action will be simple and effective, lack of clear thinking, confusion of counsel until the emergency comes, until self-preservation strikes is bearing down. These are the features which constitute the endless repetition of history. It is for this reason that I'm compelled to present the truth about and a pathway out of Nigeria's economic dire straits. I'm now proceeding into the economic challenge before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As we may recall, the renewed hope upon which the president rode to power began to dwindle from day one, with the mishandling of such sensitive transactions as the fuel subsidy and exchange rate regimes, and even the coup in Niger. Within a year and a half of this administration, the implementation of the otherwise audacious economic policies triggered an avalanche of economic hardships for the Nigerian people. It led to excruciating food inflation, with over 1 million additional Nigerians thrown into severe food insecurity. It further led to an over 430% increase in fuel price as of October 2024. At the same time, Nigeria experienced the highest ever rate of currency depreciation and the lowest foreign direct investment record, going by data traced back to 2013, even as multinationals began to exit the country. To capture in data the despondency experienced by Nigerians as a result of the reforms, my attention was drawn to the misery index, which is the sum of unemployment and inflation rates. According to the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, Nigeria has one of the world's highest misery indexes, with many Nigerians experiencing a cost of living crisis and weak purchasing power due to rising inflation. Furthermore, a July 2024 report by the Financial Times described the conundrum in these words. In the nearly 15 months since Bola Tinubu became president, he has forced his 220 million fellow Nigerians to swallow some bitter medicine. He removed the generous fuel subsidy, one of the few benefits citizens receive from their inefficient and corrupt state. He allowed the country currency, the naira, to enter free fall, fueling imported inflation and triggering the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. These measures have pushed tens of millions of already impoverished people deeper into misery. The stampede deaths in several cities at the end of 2024 were the most horrific climax to the economic hardships experienced by Nigerians. The heartbreaking reports of parents throwing their children over a fence in Ibadan to ensure access to charity food distribution, leading to the death of over 35 children, were tragically almost reminiscent of the biblical famine in Samaria, during which parents resorted to eating their own children.